Hello, James Jones, Director of the Mid-Pacific ICT Center in San Francisco at our 2011 ICT Educator Conference.
A great conference, by the way.
Thank you. And I'm here with Vicki Suter, who's Director of the California Virtual Campus, which is getting a revamp now, I guess.
Yes, it is.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what the California Virtual Campus is.
Sure. It actually has quite a history that comes out of legislation. The Senate passed a bill, SB 1437, quite a while ago. And the idea was students need to have choices about taking classes, especially, the students that we have nowadays. They have jobs, they have families, have a life. And in order to get through, they need choices, and online programs are a big choice. And it was hard to find out where an online course was before the California Virtual Campus was started. And it was hard to find online programs. And it's also hard as a distance ed student because there's this friction as you go through the process, and there's isolation for a distance ed student. So anyway, the idea was a sort of one-stop shop for distance education students. So that's really our focus. And it's for all California students. Although we are funded by the California Community College Chancellor's Office, we do serve all California colleges, community colleges, CSUs, UC, and we do work with K-12. So across all segments. The revamp that we're doing is what else can we do to help the distance education student? Again, there's a tremendous amount of resources, but navigating all that is very complicated. So our idea is what can we do to help the student?
So the piece that we work with is the California Community Colleges, and it's an amazing higher educational system, probably the biggest in the U.S.
It is.
114 schools or something like that.
3 million students.
Sometimes it's hard to keep track of. And there's extraordinary course offerings across that portfolio of colleges. But to try to go to any given school and figure out, how does their course catalog work, and how does their enrollment process work, and what's offered this semester or next semester. I guess you provide the value-added service of here's one place you can go and sort through that. Right. If I'm an online student, it doesn't matter to me really where the course is offered from.
That's
as long as it's the course I want.
And the course I need to finish my certificate, to get my AA, to get ready to transfer to a 4-year college. There's a real information gap there. And it is unreasonable to tell a student, well, check these 114 colleges for a 4-year class on digital media. That's unreasonable. And it increases time to completion, the lack of information. And that is one of the things that we're really all trying to work on, is the time to completion for students, whatever their goal is.
Yeah. So you're kind of like a clearinghouse for online education.
Right. The legislation said one-stop shop for online distance education. I'm in a rural area. If I live in Los Angeles, it might be a 3-hour drive to get to a college. So it's distance and time.
Right.
That is one of the issues that we really try to address and provide some support for students to find out about online classes that match their schedule, and also the difficulty of just getting to a campus is sometimes impossible to overcome.
Well, and in our field of ICT, the technologies change so quickly. To keep up with those changes is important, even if you already have a job. So, I already work in information technology, but this new thing has happened, and I've got to figure it out in order to be successful in my job. So a lot of the students we serve are working professionals.
Yes.
But they can't make it to the class because they work.
A majority of our students are working professionals. So it's not just a lot of students, a majority of our students are working professionals. so, yeah, it's really important to have this opportunity to go to online courses. You know, what you're describing is a phenomenon that's very difficult for students because, you know, you wait for a class to happen at a college. A college is not going to offer a class unless they have minimum enrollment. And it must be terribly frustrating as a student to be partway through their certificate. They need to get through because what they need is a job.
Right.
And so they absolutely need that certificate or credential for a job. And they're stuck. You know, they're stuck and stranded, is what I call it. They're stranded. And so having an option to get that course at another college, because it's specialized and because it tends, you need to aggregate that so that you have enough for enrollment in a class. So it's good for the colleges too.
Right. So I guess the site has existed for some time, but it's going through a revamp, a refreshment effort. When do you think the new look and feel is going to be available?
We're actually launching next week.
Hey, that's exciting.
Yeah, and what we did was we looked at the progression of a student through the whole process, starting with what are some career possibilities, and going all the way through to I'm ready to hunt for a job. Is there some kind of way that I can present myself and identify myself to the world as someone who's job ready, but has that extra part with all this competition, that extra piece that can get me the job, which, as you know, is an e-portfolio, which is a new technology in terms of adoption at community colleges. So from exploring careers all the way to applying for the job, we're trying to look at that process for an online student and say, okay, again, where can we reduce the friction? You know, from this place to this, going from, you know, exploring colleges to finding an online program. This college has the programs I need and they're online. So just that whole process. Now, I think an important thing to think about, and especially in these times where, you know, you have a tremendous amount of resources. You have great resources to help faculty do online courses, and especially hybrid courses, which we know are kind of the future. Why should we start all over again and develop those resources? It makes no sense, especially as budgets shrink. It makes no sense. So what we're doing with this, following the student all the way through the process, is saying what are the really best resources for that student, whether we create them, work in partnership with someone else to create them, or find them, you know, working, you know, really hard. For example, the Explore Careers option, there is a tremendous resource called CalSTRN, which was funded publicly, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it has self-assessment, it has these great sections on industry sectors, and it has a reality check at the end, you know. So you say you want to be a vending machine repair person. Here is a typical day in the life of a vending machine person. There's a video of someone doing that. But you want to live in San Francisco and have, you know, own property downtown. I mean, that's an extreme example, but
probably not going to own a Learjet.
That's right, exactly. So that's the reality check part. It's really a wonderful site. Why would we start all over with that? Especially it was publicly funded to begin with. So we talked to John Maris Coots at CalSTRN, and we have that site brought to our site, and they are, you know, pointing back to us. So that's an example of our approach. Partnering, finding good resources. We don't do the from scratch work unless there's a real gap that is unfilled by anyone.
So the California Virtual Campus is a clearinghouse, not just for online course offerings, but also for a portfolio of resources that help the student no matter where they are. Identifying you know, career paths, having a reality check about their lifestyle if they go down that path, navigating the application process to schools, being able to find courses and credentials that would serve them in their goals, and also sharing an online portfolio of their work so that employers can see what they're capable of.
Right, I'm job ready. Here's a demonstration of my competencies, which I'm glad you brought up, the e-portfolios. That's been a big project of ours, ePortfolio California, over the last couple of years. And that's another part of our role, and that's to look at emerging technologies and to say, okay, these are interesting, but are they scalable? Because we're talking about a system of 3 million students just for the community colleges. So, you know, we have a responsibility when we look at emerging technologies to go beyond this is interesting all the way to, well, is this something that would scale? So we do pilots. So we did 21 pilots on e-portfolios, and those are they're collections of artifacts, usually digital artifacts, that you can organize in different ways for different audiences. So you might organize them in one way and have certain artifacts. As you go through a class, a faculty person can look at those things as a kind of non-traditional assessment. So you have project-based class, then you can really show that project. Because more and more the way we communicate is visually. So these media-rich ways of presenting yourself in your class to your peers, to your parents, to employers, that's huge. And there's software that does that, and there's specialized software that does that, and then there's the Web 2.0, which is what the students already know how to use. But they don't know how to organize that into a presentable form, depending on the audience. So that's a definite role that we can play, is kind of working out those templates and showing galleries of good examples of student e-portfolios. Other emerging technologies we're looking at are what's happening in video conferencing, which, as you know, working with CCC Confer, is a huge resource for people who are trying to work remotely. We use it all the time for meetings, but I know it's used extensively for classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking beyond that a little bit, what's happening beyond the room-based video conference? What's happening with the smaller units? What's happening with portable units? And starting to explore that. So we're always looking at where's the technology going, and where should we start really paying attention, because it's starting to stabilize. It's past the Gartner Group hype cycle, and it's starting to really look like it can be adopted. How can it scale?
Well, we're really excited about the momentum at California Virtual Campus. Can't wait for the new site to launch. We've been working with educators in our region about how can we offer more advanced and specialized courses. You can't always make that class run at your local school because there aren't enough students who can physically sit in the classroom. And rationally, department chair may not want to offer that class because, first of all, there's an investment in equipment for the labs.
Yes, those are, they are more expensive classes to deliver for that very reason.
You got to bring a faculty member up to speed to teach the class. If you can't justify the return on that investment with full seats in the classroom, you can't make it run. But a lot of these advanced and specialized courses don't lend themselves as well to traditional online delivery. You need interactivity. You need the feedback cycle where you can assess, are they getting it? And there needs to be that interactivity with real-world equipment. We figured out how to build that in through CCC Confer so that we can serve students who are physically in the classroom, those who come in through the internet on any computer, any browser, any connection speed from anywhere in the world. And there's also a recorded archive of that presentation, so when someone misses a class, it's not the end.
Right, plus they can review it.
Exactly.
And specialized technical areas, those are good areas to kind of know, how did that server get configured? What are the steps again? And having that information to look at several times is important. The fact that, you mentioned that there's a problem with the interactivity sometimes of online courses. And many studies say that it's one of the things that defeats students is the sense of isolation. So providing tools that allow students to collaborate engages them. It would actually in a face-to-face class. But online classes and hybrid classes give us an opportunity to really build interactivity into the classes, peer-to-peer and student-to-faculty person. And so I think using a range of tools and making them available, because every student is different. So they need to be able to choose what works for them. And having a choice, as you do in the classes that you're working with faculty to develop, having a choice between being all face-to-face or hybrid or all online, or any one of those things at a particular time or particular day is what's key.
Yeah, well, we find that it improves student outcomes and it improves instructor and department outcomes to be able to do this. And we're really excited about being able to partner with the California Virtual Campus because why should we invent some sort of medium for people to find these classes? It already exists with you. So we're encouraging faculty to create these multimodal delivery mechanisms and to port those courses into the California Virtual Campus so that you can find students. You don't have to market it. There's already a one-stop shop for how you find these classes.
Yes, thank you.
We're super excited about that.
We are too. It's great to work with an organization like Impact. You're doing innovative things. What I really like is you're thinking about the student and thinking about what can we do to make things work for them. Because we all need to be learner-centered. We all need to be student-centered. That's what we're all about. Okay,
so where do people find the California Virtual Campus online?
It's an easy URL. It's CVC for CaliforniaVirtualCampus.edu. And that's where you go. And there's services for students. I might mention there's also faculty staff area to help online instructors, because sometimes that's an isolating and difficult role to play. And so we have that tab as well. So for students, for faculty and staff, and even more than that, we do work with community organizations. We're working with about 7. So you look for the community tab and you see the work that we're doing to make online learning materials available easily in community centers, in rural areas, and low-income areas. So.
Great stuff. cvc.edu. Check it out. Thanks, Vicki.
mpec.org. Check that out. Good to work with you.
Yeah.